Greetings, everybody, and welcome to a Eagles Victory Monday here on the Talking Phillies Sports with Matty B, a podcast show here on the Edge of Philly Sports with your boy Matty B. It is 8 p.m. Monday, September the 11th, 2023. Happy Patriot Day to everybody out there. I don't know if that's really appropriate to say that, but it is Patriot Day. Never forget. And we are on a Eagles Monday, Eagle Victory Monday. And again, me being in the leadoff spot on this network, I get the first crack at it. That's right, man. I get the first crack of dissecting the opening game of the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles season. Yesterday in a rainy, nasty Foxborough in Gillette Stadium, with an inferior opponent in the New England Patriots, because I don't care what people are going to try to tell you, the Patriots are an inferior opponent. And the Eagles came up flat. But they got the win, 25-20. But you wouldn't know it. Everybody is making excuses. I heard someone say today, it's the officials' fault today. That A.J. Brown, that was a catch. Okay, and that would have changed the momentum of the whole game. I've heard a lot of different things and a lot of different points of view, but the bottom line is the Eagles came out in a game where they should have dominated from the opening kickoff, and it came up flat, and they were lucky to get out of Foxborough with that victory yesterday, 25-20. They are now 1-0 on the young season, and here in a few minutes, I will bring my boy Kyle Quinn on, and we will break this game down, and we will preview the Week 2 game, because that's right on top of us. Thursday night here at the Link, the Eagles will open up their home portion of their schedule against another inferior team in the Minnesota Vikings. Maybe they'll come up with a better performance against the Vikings than they did against the Patriots. So here in about 5 minutes or so, we'll break that down with Kyle Quinn on our weekly Birds Breakdown with Kyle Quinn. But, of course, I am going to add my 2 cents in before we get to Kyle, and then I'll add my 2 cents then, too. Daniel chimes in with hi. Hey, what's up, Daniel? How are you? Mike Lauro, Matty B. Listen, I was in Boston actually over the weekend, folks. For those of you who are not keeping tabs on my personal life, and it should be none of you doing that, but I was in Boston over the weekend. I had a hockey tournament up there, and I was actually in a hotel because it was Tom Brady Day. I had to deal with that all weekend. But on Sunday, as I was getting ready to go out and work the rest of my games, before heading home Sunday afternoon, it was rainy and humid and hot all weekend. Matter of fact, the arena I was in lost power on Saturday and Friday, actually, parts of the day. But really violent thunderstorms were coming through that area. And then when I woke up Sunday and I saw that downpour and that, essentially the Eagles played in all day, I knew it was going to be, I guess, when you add the fact that the team didn't play at all together since the Super Bowl. I mean, none of the starters really played at all since they walked off the field in February against the Chiefs. And then you mix the weather in, because it was, no matter what you want to say, it was a factor. I guess the result is what you were going to get. But we're going to get into some things with Kyle here momentarily. Was it the play calling? Was it a very, a very scared approach? Did the Eagles smell themselves early in the first quarter when they were up 16-0? Because there was a time in this game where it looks like it was blowout city, and then the Eagles took the foot off the gas, and that was that. And then before you knew it, it was 16-14, and we had ourselves a game. So what happened yesterday? What exactly went wrong for the Eagles? And now we got some injury issues to kind of talk about as we get ready for the Minnesota Vikings, because there's no rest for the weary, as the Eagles will get this thing spun back up for Week 2 here in about 3 nights, as they'll open up at home against the Vikings. But they're going to be down some key defensive players. That's going to make this defensive unit, in my opinion, a weak defensive unit to begin with, even weaker. So is there room for concern here? Is there room to be alarmed? I mean, because basically the Eagles beat an inferior. The Eagles won on talent alone. They did. They proved something that I guess I didn't think was going to work in the NFL. They beat a team that was just not good enough as they are. I mean, the Patriots were playing their butts off. They just didn't have enough at the end of the day. It kind of reminded me of watching the Flyers play, right? Because the Flyers are out there busting their asses every night, but they're just not talented enough to beat anybody. So you know that team is the better team is eventually going to win. And that was kind of how it went down on Sunday, that the Eagles, being the better team, just kind of waited them out and won the game. But that's not how the Eagles cannot rely on that week to week. Nick Sirianni, how much does he have to blame for this? As Mike Laro says, vanilla offense. Yeah, I mean, what was it? Dallas Goedert got targeted, what, once, if any? DeAndre Swift, 2 touches the entire game. I had DeAndre Swift. You guys watched this show last week. He was my player of the game. I thought he was going to be the MVP of the game for the Eagles. I have a $125 and 2 touchdowns. The guy touched the ball like twice. I mean, I don't get it either. So we're going to talk with Kyle here in about a minute or so, and he's going to give me his 2 cents, and we're going to give you my 2 cents, and we're all going to pony it up onto the poker table of life and see what's up. Pat Bernard says, no excuses. Defense played well in the first, and Belichick exposed the Eagles secondary. Patriots making plays over the middle. Yeah, I guess he did. And, you know, as I said this, though, the Eagles won out on by pure talent. But if a quarterback like Mac Jones, with the limited amount of weapons that he has, was able to expose that secondary, and I guess we can talk about the linebackers too as part of that group, then what are we going to do when we're up against the the Justin Jeffersons of the world? You know, last year, again, in a similar scenario, the Eagles opened up their season at home against the Vikings, and one of the main things they did do was shut down Justin Jefferson. But now, I mean, we got potential issues with our players and injuries. You got James Bradbury's status in this game going to be questionable. You know, I mean, there's just a lot of things that could really go wrong here, as the Eagles are not going to have the ability to rely on an easy schedule. This might have been the easiest game the Eagles are going to have for a little while, but 25-20 winners, and I can't lose sight in that fact that the Eagles did win, and I'm not going to lose sight in that. And let me bring my main man on right now as I see him popping in. Kyle, what is up? Welcome back. 25-20, Kyle Quinn.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, it was week 1. They weren't really buttoned up, obviously. There were a lot of sloppy plays, substitution penalties, some odd play calling decisions. I think some odd coaching decisions on Nick Sirianni's end. Hurts didn't really look like he was seeing the field all too well. I think that's obviously the result of week 1 stuff. And Sirianni himself said that he wishes after the game that he could, if he could have went back, that he would have played the guys in preseason maybe, which is, I think, just a strange comment from the coach. So it just looked like they were a little bit wonky, out of sorts. I think Belichick threw them something that they weren't really expected to see. And I think the Patriots came out and played like a better team than I gave them credit for. But yeah, I mean, just overall, obviously a very sloppy game for the Eagles. They were pretty much lucky to win it, if you want to go by that. But they did win it, and win's a win sometimes. But in week 1, I think it definitely is.
Yeah, and I want to explore some of the things you just said, because some of the things resonated with me, and I heard that today, and I want to expand on it. But before I do that, don't forget, this is the Birds Breakdown with Kyle Quinn segment on the Talking Philly Sports with Matty B program, brought to you by the good folks here at EOP and all of our sponsors. Kyle, you mentioned the Nick Sirianni statement that he wished, in retrospect, I guess he wished he would have played some of his starters in the preseason. How much of that is fan fodder, of kind of giving us something maybe to chew on? Or how much of that is you think is honestly it resonating in his mind?
No, well, it's in his mind that he made a note of it during the game. Nick Sirianni, who's really, I think, at least since his very first press conference with the Eagles, is usually he's pretty guarded when it comes to what he says to the media. And for him to come out and say that he actually had that regret, I thought it was pretty interesting. So I definitely don't think it was fodder or anything like that. I think that he actually meant it, and that's what he thinks.
Yeah, I have a tendency to believe that too. And I'm not a big fan of preseason football. And the last thing you want to see is a Jalen Hurts or a AJ Brown or a Devontae Smith or anybody like that, or anybody at all that is a contributor, to get hurt in the preseason, be gone for the year. But then again, you have to kind of weigh it against what happened on Sunday. Now, the weather, it factored into things a little bit out there. It was very wet, very rainy. Thank God for Jake Elliott and his foot. As you mentioned, that was pretty much the reason why we won that football game. But let's get into this thing a little bit more deeper. The Eagles came out like firing on all cylinders. They had a great offensive drive to start the game, but they bogged down and they had to settle for the field goal. Then they got the pick six, and then another fumble recovery. Zeke Elliott this time coughs it up. The Eagles are in business again, and then a Devontae Smith touchdown pass later. It is now 16, and a Jake Elliott missed extra point later. It is now 16-0, Kyle. But then things changed. What did you see from the Eagles on both sides of the ball, or we can talk all three sides of the ball, that changed that allowed the Patriots to get back into this thing by half?
Yeah, well, I think the offense just didn't really look good in general. But then you get the fact that I think the Patriots clearly made an offensive adjustment and that they were going to attack the middle of the field, which, then Nakobe Dean went out and then it became a bit of a problem. And then, Blankenship got banged up too. So, the middle of the field, which is already a little bit of a question mark heading into the game, was pretty much abused in the second half by Mac Jones. And I thought Mac Jones, to his credit, had a pretty good game, but they don't really have weapons. So that's something that, really shouldn't have been happening. And then on the offensive side of the ball, I think that was just really what it was. He wasn't seeing the field very well all game. It was pretty clear. Even in the first drive, which was scripted, it was pretty much all dump offs to Kenny Gainwell. He wasn't really pushing the ball down the field. So clearly, Jalen Hurts wasn't seeing the field very well. I wouldn't say he was inaccurate, which I think is a good sign, is that he wasn't like sailing the ball. He wasn't missing guys, but he just wasn't really seeing open guys. I think that's something that he'll get cleaned up. But I think was an issue with the offense all game. We just saw it materialize in the second half, and yeah, it was what, 3 straight or 5 straight drives where they get that 3 and out or something like that. They hadn't even had 3, I think, all last season. So
Yeah.
definitely a bad sign for the offense. But I think really what it was just that was.
So you don't see anything mechanically in Jalen Hurts that was different from last season? You just see, maybe was it as you mentioned, uh, was it weather related? Mac Jones had no problem throwing the ball down the field to lesser receivers. There's real no excuse. I believe I heard Merle at one point say, why can't we do this? And Mac Jones is doing it. So, did you see anything mechanically different about Jalen Hurts
No.
than you did last season in this game?
No, yeah, like I said, I didn't think he was inaccurate with the football. I thought he was actually. He had some pretty nice throws. The touchdown to Devontae Smith was a really nice throw.
Yeah.
I thought one that he threw to AJ Brown, which was deep, that AJ had a chance at it. These were throws that he had made last season. They were 50-50 balls. We just lost the 50-50s this time. So it wasn't really something where I saw Jalen Hurts was off with his throws. I think, and Romo pointed it out on the TV broadcast that he was missing Dallas Goedert when he was open, and then the one where he did throw to Dallas Goedert, he missed Devontae Smith. So I think he was just missing guys. That's something, there's a new play caller, and there's, he didn't play in the preseason. There's going to be a little bit of those hiccups, those growing pains, I think. So I'm willing to give it a little bit of a chance. And the Patriots defense, to their credit, they played really well. They had some guys back there that were giving AJ and Devontae some problems at some point in the game. So that's why you saw in the beginning Jalen was just kind of taking all the underneath stuff. The stuff from the back end never really opened up. So I am looking to see that improve as the season goes on. But the Patriots did a really good job.
Well, see, Kyle, and I agree the Patriots did do a really good job. And I mentioned this last week that the Eagles are entering this season as not the hunters anymore, but they're the hunted now. And everybody is going to bring their A game when they play the Eagles. It's just the way it is. You always want to beat the guys that are on top. Same thing with the Chiefs. We saw it with the Lions. They brought it to the Lions or to the Chiefs. And they so it's going to be like this every week. The Eagles are going to get everybody's best effort every week. And I maintain that the Eagles eventually won this game based on the fact they were just a better team. Just waited them out a little bit, and they got the job done. But we can't rely on this type of performance week to week, because that's not the way it's going to work, especially with the schedule. But one last point about the game yesterday, then we're going to talk about our players of the game picks from a week ago and how they did. The play call. We'll start with defensive. We didn't really talk much defense. We were kind of offense centric. What did you see from Desai defensively that you liked or you didn't like or you want to see different?
Well, it looked a lot like the Jonathan Gannon defense that we saw. I don't think anybody expected it to be too much different. I did see him throwing some blitzes in there. I think that's almost out of necessity, though, because, like you said, some guys, they were a little bit weak on the down the middle and on the back end of that middle part of the field. So I think almost out of necessity, you saw that happening. I don't know. The biggest thing that stood out to me on the defense was the play of Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, the young guys on the defensive front. That's not really something that Desai has to do. He doesn't have to dial those guys up. But one thing he did do was put Jordan Davis out on the field a whole lot, which was something I was, kind of itching to see if he was going to do this year, and he did, and he played really, really well. And then not even mention how Jalen Carter played. So I thought ultimately the defense did a pretty good job. And yeah, the Patriots did. I think they brought their A game on offense and defense. The whole thing is like what you said, is that not everybody's A game is going to be good enough for the Eagles, because the Eagles are maybe the most talented team in the league. So It's not something they're going to be able to get away with against teams that are almost as talented as them, but it's going to be something that gets them into the postseason, I think, this season.
Yeah, no, I agree. And now we spoke a little bit more in depth about the offense, but let's talk about some of the let's talk about our players of the game picks from a week ago. You had picked. We'll start with yours. You picked Jalen Hurts to be the player of the game. Jalen finished 22 for 33, 170 yards. He's averaging about 5.2 yards a throw, a touchdown, no interceptions. He was sacked 3 times for 16 yards. On the rushing standpoint, he rushed the ball 9 times for 37 yards and a 4-yard gain average. Not typically player of the game numbers for Mr. Jalen Hurts. I noticed again yesterday a lot of design runs for Jalen Hurts, and you're probably going to differ. I don't know, but do you think that was? I blamed it on the weather. I said, listen, I think he's trying to keep the ball on the ground for the weather. The beginning of the game, it was just a torrential rain. It was just coming down like buckets. It got better as the game went on, but what was the deal with Jalen Hurts? Was he restricted by the play calling? As you mentioned, that he was throwing good balls, but he wasn't really giving them many opportunities. Where was that coming from?
Yeah, I think unfamiliarity, like the whole thing about him running the football a lot is like the Eagles are just doing what they've been doing, and they've done it all since last year, and I guess into the second half of the year before, is they just do what they think the defense dictates. And the thing that Bill Belichick does a really good job of, and it's a reason why he's one of maybe the best defensive coach ever, is that he makes it really tough on a young offensive play caller, a young quarterback, a young head coach. I mean, he's not just throwing them easy stuff, and the Eagles know exactly what to take at all times. I mean, it was obviously a little bit of a process for Jalen to be able to handle, and you saw Jalen struggle with it. You saw Brian Johnson struggle with it. I think he was a little conservative at times, which you shouldn't be when you have the weapons that you do have. But again, I think these are just things that are sort of just going to iron themselves out as time goes on. They're just too talented of a team for that to be who they are, I think. And the whole Jalen Hurts thing is I mean, like I said, he wasn't inaccurate. He's just sort of not seeing the field well. And I mean, he's going to run the ball. They're going to make him run the ball if they think that that's what they need to do to win. And that's always what they've done. That's what they're going to do this year. So I think we just got to get used to it.
So my player of the game pick was DeAndre Swift. He carried the ball once and for a 3-yard carry, and it averaged at 3 yards. Obviously, nowhere near player of the game worthiness. Why did DeAndre Swift and basically every other running back not named Kenny Gainwell not get ample amounts of carries yesterday?
Yeah, again, I don't have the explanation for it exactly. And Nick Sirianni he explained it away, and I think a way that makes somewhat of sense, at least sense in a way that we've seen them do it before. This is something that happened early in the season last year. I remember there was a game early on where Devontae Smith had 0 targets or 0 catches, something like that, and everyone freaked out about it. And then as the season went on, Devontae ended up with 1,100 yards, and everything was fine. He looks like potentially 1A, 1B receiver on the team. No issues there. I think DeAndre Swift will eventually get more touches. I mean, he's probably going to get more touches next week. Sirianni knows the mistake that he made by not getting him the ball. I think you'll probably see Penny active. I'm not sure. I would imagine they'll want another fresh body for the short week there on Thursday night. But again, Swift, you could consider a fresh body because he barely played. So,
absolutely,
this is sort of just what the Eagles do with the running backs there. I think we're going to see a weird rotation all season, one that's not really going to make a whole ton of sense because one guy's not really going to stick himself that far ahead of the others.
And then my last offensive key point of this game, Dallas Goedert. No receptions, no yards, and 1 target. Again, does this blend into the narrative that Jalen Hurts just wasn't seeing the field, or was it just not the play calling? Was he not factored into the game plan?
I think there's probably some sort of combination of both. Like it was pretty apparent that Jalen was missing him a few times when he was open, and sometimes that's just the way the game breaks out. Like you go into a game where you have all the weapons that we named before it: Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert, DeAndre Swift, and then throw Jalen Hurts himself into the mix. Eventually, like there's just a lot of mouths to feed, right? Like not everybody's going to be able to be fed on every single game, every single play, and like it was a tough defensive team going against the Patriots. So when you only score 18 offensive points, there's only so much to go around. So I think that can pretty much explain away the whole thing.
And then just some housekeeping from the game yesterday. The Eagles did commit 5 penalties for 49 yards. They did force 2 turnovers, which is a very good number, and it's very, very positive to get that thing right.
That's the only reason they won the game.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. They've scored 14 points off those turnovers. So, I mean, you're absolutely right. That's the only reason why they won that game. And then when we break down the points, and this is a stat that I'll hammer to death until you tell me to go F myself. 16 first half points and 9 second half points.
Yes. Well, so if you would allow me, I don't understand how you come away from a game where the offense sucked the entire game and you're looking at the second half points.
I'm looking at both hats now. I decided to broaden my horizons.
You're looking at things. Focus on the right things. Okay.
I'm focusing on the things that win and lose football.
Nobody cares. The only one that cares about the second half points. Only one.
And they did also commit one turnover, which is something that the Eagles really were really good about not doing last season. So let's hope that's maybe weather related. But Kyle Quinn, 25-20 was the final score yesterday. Eagles are 1-0 after all that, and a wacky day in the NFC East yesterday, with the nightcap being a slaughter fest out there in MetLife Stadium. 40-0. The Cowboys all over the New York Giants. We'll get into kind of the ramifications of all that here in a second, but your prediction for this game was 27-17, and I had 35-17. We both had picked the Eagles, so we both won, but obviously you came a little closer. We don't do over-under here, but I'm going to give you the credit of getting a little bit closer in that ballpark, so good job, Kyle.
No, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
All right, so let's turn the page, Kyle Quinn, because we got a football game in 3 nights.
Yeah.
We got a football game against the Minnesota Vikings, who started their season off with a victory yesterday against, I believe, Chicago, right? They beat the Bears in their building there. So we got the Vikings coming in here again, a Groundhog Day scenario. Same thing last season, home opener, Thursday night football. Kyle, when the lights come on at Lincoln Financial Field, what do you expect to happen in front of the home crowd?
Well, I expect we're going to see a win. I know you're not asking for my prediction right away, but I think it's probably going to be a pretty close game. The Vikings are, they have some good weapons on that offense. Jordan Addison looks pretty good in his first game action. And, of course, Justin Jefferson, maybe the best receiver in the league. And Kirk Cousins, although he didn't play great last season against the Eagles, he's played well against the Eagles in his career. And he's been known to put together some pretty good offensive performances. Now, they looked bad against the Buccaneers last week, which is why I don't think that they're going to be very good this week against the Eagles. So I do like the Eagles to win, but I think it's going to be a kind of a close game. They're probably going to have to win a shootout, especially with the injuries that the Eagles have down the middle of the field on defense.
Yeah, we'll get to that here in a second. And I apologize. You're right. The Buccaneers did beat them yesterday. I don't know what the hell I was looking at, but you're right. That was a 2017 they lost to the Bucs. Yeah. In this game, the Eagles have not announced exactly what they're going to go with their uniforms yet, but the Vikings have announced they're going to go all white. So I'd imagine it'll be the midnight green, white pant, or an all-black uniform, potentially black. I don't know if they would black out for the first game of the season. What do you think, Kyle? Do you give any litany to that? Think we might see a blackout here on Thursday night?
Sure, the uniform thing. Now they got the third alternate uniform in there, So I don't know. Maybe they'll save it for one of their division games because I know they've designated the Dolphins and the Bills for the so maybe they'll want to do the division game for one of the blackouts. But
yeah, more than likely it'll probably be the green tops with the white bottoms. Weather for the game seems to be pretty clear at this point. Beautiful night, actually, be in the mid-70s, light breeze. Typical late summer, early fall game down there at Lincoln Financial Field. So that would be a far cry better than what we just dealt with here on Sunday. Injury report for the Eagles. Let's get into that right now. Significant stuff coming out of the game yesterday. Nakobe Dean with a foot, Fletcher Cox, and then now we got Bradbury in concussion protocol. Am I missing anybody, Kyle? And how concerned are you about these injuries?
Well, yeah, Fletcher Cox one's probably going to be okay. It looks like I think they put out the report and Blankenship didn't practice, but I think they think he's going to be okay. Bradbury doubt he's going to clear concussion protocol by Thursday. That's a big one. With Vikings receiving core. And then Nakobe Dean, I mean, you don't have linebackers in it. They signed Rashaan Evans, but he's not going to be ready and knowing the defense by the time Thursday comes around. So that's going to be a tough spot for Thursday and for however long Nakobe Dean's out. So that one's definitely a major concern for me.
And for the Vikings, Marcus Davenport, linebacker, is out. He was listed as out today. Again, we'll see how that kind of works itself out by Thursday. Garrett Bradbury, which is the Vikings starting center, he's also listed as questionable with a back injury. And then Christian Darnsaw, another offensive tackle, is also listed as questionable. So these teams starting to feel, I guess, the grind of week 2 in the National Football League. But Kyle, when we get this thing going, as you mentioned, what do you think what are your 3 keys to Birds' victory against the Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah, well, first I got to button up the sloppiness that they showed in week 1 with the substitution penalties, the blowing timeouts. I mean, allowing yourself to only have one timeout by the time the 2-minute warning rolls around in
Yeah.
one game is absurd. It's ridiculous. And Sirianni should never let it happen again. And they just got to button up every other thing with all the penalties, and Jalen Hurts himself. He's got to start seeing the field a little bit better. So I want to see a little more buttoned up team than I saw in week 1. The other one is, like I just sort of mentioned with the Kobe Dean, is they're going to have to find a way to get creative and guard like hell in the middle of the field with all their life, because if you don't think they're going to put Justin Jefferson in a position where he's going to be running around the middle of the field, then I think you're dreaming, and you're not giving enough credit to Kevin O'Connell. So they're going to be looking for ways to get him open in the middle of the field. And then Jordan Addison, the guy they do have in the slot, is going to find ways to get open in the middle of the field. So I'm not the defensive coordinator, but I would implore Sean Desai to find a way to get creative and make that one work. And the other one, I think the third one, Belichick sort of provided the blueprint for this one in week 1. And that was the Eagles are going to have an answer for the blitz. And it's sort of been an issue it was an issue for them all last season. They still don't really look like they had any hot in that. So maybe that was Hurts, maybe that was the offense, but I'm not sure. They're going to need a plan for it this week, because if you don't think the Vikings are watching that film from week 1 that the Patriots just did, and they're going to say, we're going to try and emulate that to our best capabilities, and I'll tell you again, you're crazy. So those are the 3 keys. I think they mainly, though, I think if they just button it up, the other things will sort of fall into place.
Yeah, I'm going to go and echo that button up one. I think that is the number one. I think we need to get back to Eagle football. I don't know what was it weather driven? I don't know, but they need to get back to Eagle football. I knew early on in the game yesterday when they were steady diet to Kenny Gainwell, I wasn't feeling. I was like, what are they doing? What wrinkle is this? Are they trying to outsmart themselves? Get back to what got them to where they are now. Get back to that. They know we're going to we're going to throw the ball to Smith. We're going to throw the ball to Brown. We're going to throw the ball to Goddard. Do it, because we're going to do it. So don't try to fake yourself out or try to reinvent the wheel. You got the good players there. Use them, and then you got to clamp down, as you said, button up some of that mess that they kind of got themselves in. Number 2, Jalen Hurts. I think he needs to not try to. I don't want to see Jalen Hurts come out on a vengeance on Thursday night. I don't want to see him trying to do too much. Again, get back to where you were. That's the reason why you got the big contract extension, is because we know what you can do. You don't have to overcompensate. Let your players around you help you. I don't like the design runs. I don't like them. I think that's a recipe for disaster as we move forward into this season. But Jalen Hurts doesn't need to overcompensate. Be the leader of this team and just do what you do. And then my number 1 key to Eagle victory is the Eagle coaching staff. I don't know how much stock I take in the coordinators. I really don't. I don't blame Gannon for the Super Bowl loss. I wasn't a Gannon fan. I believe at the end of the day, the players got to execute no matter what the plan is. They just got to find a way to execute or adjust on the fly. But get back to Eagle football and let's beat teams that we're supposed to beat, which is about 99% in this league right now. So get back to being the Eagles.
Yeah, and I think especially on offense where you have all the talent in the world, it's hard for me to look at Brian Johnson and say that he's going to be the reason that they're losing all these games. If all of the guys that are on that offense, they should be able to win games, and they should, with the talent they have, they should.
Exactly. All right, Kyle, leads me to my prediction and score. What you got? Who you got on week 2, and give me a score.
Yeah, I got the Eagles. They're gonna squeak this one out. I think it's gonna be 28-27. I think people are gonna be a little upset with the defense, but I think that's to be expected with the Kobe Blankenship being a little bit banged up. So I think that's going to be a struggle for us. But shootout, I got 20.
And who is your player of the game?
Well, let's give a bounce back to my guy Jalen Hurts. I'm going to take him 2 weeks in a row, and hopefully he makes me look like a smart guy this week.
All right, Kyle. I'm also going with the Eagles. I think they're just they're just a better team. And when you lose to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I don't know if the Eagles better go out and just slam you into the ground. I want to go with the Eagles in this one, but I'm going to go a little bit more conservative as well, as you kind of did there. I'm going to go 21-17 Eagles is going to be the victory tonight, and I'm going to go A.J. Brown as my player of the game. I think A.J. accounts for all 21 Eagle points on Thursday night as he outduels Justin Jefferson on a one-on-one basis.
I can get down with that.
All right. All right, Kyle. That leads me to my question of the week. As I've been hearing all over the talk radio airwaves, we mentioned this last week, and that we keep forgetting that they won. That's what I think a lot of people are missing, that we actually won this game. But how concerned, Kyle Quinn? We talked about it. How concerned coming out of week one would it be? How concerning would it be if they lose Thursday night against the Vikings and are now 1-1? And like, is it alarm time? Where's the pulse of this fan base if they lose to the Vikings in week two?
Well, it's tough to say. I mean, I guess it would depend on how they lose, but it's hard for me to say that there won't be panic, because there shouldn't be at 1-1, and it's only week two. But I think, knowing this fan base, if you're going to ask me to answer this honestly, yeah, everyone's going to freak out if they lose to Minnesota, especially they just lost to the Buccaneers. You lose at home in your home opener, and like, I mean, who knows how Jalen's going to look? So I'll just go out on a limb and say, yeah, everyone's going to go nuts.
Yeah, I think so too. It's a shame, it's a long football season, but you're right though. I mean, I remember this point last season when they came off the 38-35 win over the Lions. I was all over them, for getting off to that very bad start. I mean, they got to a bad start, and they were able to find a way to beat the Lions, again, being a better talented team, a lot like what they did yesterday against the Patriots. But of course, it was more offensive centric last week against the Lions, and that's what I guess the most concerning thing for me right now is the team's lack of offensive firepower yesterday. That the defense is what it is. It's going to be a work in flight or build in flight type thing, but the offense kind of came out with a thud, and that's what is concerning me the most is this offense.
Yeah, I mean, but again, you did face a much better defense than you faced in the Lions week one last season. You went against Bill Belichick and a Patriots defense who's kind of low key been top 5 defense the past 3 seasons. So they're a very talented group, and they were on the road. It was just tough conditions, and again, it's sort of a learning curve. Jalen Hurts didn't have any time in preseason with the starters like he did last season. Although it was one series, but you never know. They also apparently practiced a little bit less than they did last season too. So a lot of that could be playing a role in it. But I think I'm going to reserve my judgment on the offense till a few more games happen.
All right, and this was the Birds Breakdown with Kyle Quinn. Kyle, before I let you go, tell the people out there where they can find you.
Yeah, well, by the way, and also before you let me go, for those of you who are tuning in here and not watching Monday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers was carted to the locker room with an ankle injury.
All that.
Yeah, basically like after maybe his first play with the team. So pretty wild development with the Jets. But yes, you can find me on 94 WIP every weekday, 10 to 2. So 94.1 on your dial. We're going to be talking Birds all week and all season, and hopefully a nice Phil's Red October run. So should be a fun time. Catch me there.
Oh, with that being said, Kyle, let me express on behalf of the Edge of Philly Sports Network our condolences to Hugh Douglas, if you could pass that on to him about the tragedy that struck his family. We're all thinking about him over here, and he is in our thoughts and our prayers.
Yeah, thanks, man. And Hugh definitely appreciates all the people reaching out to him. I don't want to speak for him, but it's freaking just unspeakable. So all the kind words are real nice.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, all right, Kyle, listen, next week we'll talk again. Go Birds, and let's get the home opener in the books here.
Yes, sir. Go Birds, Matt. Thanks for having me, Bill.
All right, Kyle Quinn joins me again, and with our segment, the Birds Breakdown, here on the show. And yes, obviously, our sentiments here at the Edge of Philly Sports, with the condolences to Hugh Douglas and his family for the tragedy. There's no words to lose a child. I have 3 of my own. I don't want to know what it's like, and I don't know. I don't want to learn how to deal with that. But he is definitely in our thoughts and our prayers. So yeah. All right. So let's transition real quick to the other topic. We usually start this show every week off with this night in Philadelphia sports history, or this day, I should say, in Philly sports history. We didn't do that tonight because of a couple of things. I was a little backed up with time. But also, today is September 11th, and I am not going to take away from what happened on this day so many years ago, on 2001, of course. And I'm not going to get into the politics of all of it. We all know what happened, and it is something that, it replaces everything else. It brings the world back into a very cold, dark reality. And the events of that day affected many people that I know. Affected me personally. I was a soldier at that point, a young soldier, and it obviously on active duty that day was the longest day of my military career, and I'll never forget it. But and of course, all the deployments, the combat deployments that would follow for me and countless others that will spend a significant amount of time in Afghanistan, in Iraq, or in other parts of the world fighting the global war on terrorism in direct response to the attacks of 9/11. Our lives are forever altered. And then of course the ones of our brothers and sisters that did not come home from those conflicts, and they joined the ranks of those who gave the ultimate sacrifice for this nation's freedom. And in this world that we live in now, with all these political back and forths about the left and the right, and who's left and who's right, um, a galvanizing event. And I'm not saying that I wish something like this would happen again, but a galvanizing event like 9/11, brought this country together like no other, like I've never seen before. Obviously, everybody, the older people would refer to Pearl Harbor as a equivalent to bringing the country together. But why does it have to be something like that? Why can't we just find a way to come common ground together and to work out our differences, whatever, and understand that there's a big bad world out there that doesn't want to see us succeed, and we have to figure it out internally. But to those who were affected this day, those who were lost on this day, and then the days that followed in the global war on terrorism, I will never forget. And I give you all my respect to my brothers and sisters in arms who I served with in combat myself, to the soldiers that I had to tell their parents they weren't coming home, to all the first responders, the police, the fire, everyone that gave their life on 9/11. You will never you haunt me daily. So never forget this day, and I will never forget. So that was replacing your day in Philly sports history. As I didn't really want to get into that, but yeah. So moving back into sports, I'm going to lighten the mood back up. Now, this is time to do that. Let's talk a little bit about your Philadelphia Phillies, who are right now slugging their way through a very brutal homestand. They dropped 2 out of 3 to the Miami Marlins over the weekend. They lose the first game of a double header earlier today. The Atlanta Braves. They're winning the second game as we speak. But a lot of things are coming out about the Phillies, specifically the bullpen. What is going on with this bullpen over the past 2 weeks? They're finding new and creative ways to lose games. Earlier today, a great game if you had the opportunity to catch it out. Catch it. Now, later tonight here on the Edge of Philly Sports, the boys over at the Fightins Final will be wrapping up in depth both the games of the doubleheader. But to kind of give you my synopsis, this was a game where Taijuan Walker didn't have it. He struggled all day with consistency, control, velocity, the whole nine, but he found his way. I mean, he had a crap ton of base runners, but he found his way out of jams, and he mitigated the damage. Got a little offensive help, but at the end of the day, the bullpen came in and just kept giving the game back. The Phillies would make some strides offensively, and the bullpen would give it right back. And then Bryce Harper ties things up in the 8th or the 9th inning on a 2-run home run at 8-8, sending in the extra innings. And then what happens? Well, the bullpen gives it right back, and the Phillies lose earlier today, 10-8. As I speak, though, they are playing the Braves in Game 2 of that doubleheader, and they're winning right now. Hopefully, with things kind of pretty much, and I'm ready to put a fork in the NL East. Yes, I know. I hate to say it, but I think obviously we are reserved now to the bullpen, to the wild card, based on the opportunities that we've had and have not taken advantage of. We still have, after tonight, 5 more games head to head with the Atlanta Braves. We are done with the Miami Marlins. We've lost that season series. So if a tiebreaker situation were to come down in the wild card, we would lose that to the Miami Marlins because they did not handle their business one-on-one with the Marlins. And with all the talk about Kyle Schwarber, who I obviously don't agree with being in the lineup, and let alone leading off, and all the offensive inconsistencies with this team, I have a problem or I have a sneaky feeling that this thing is all going to boil down to the bullpen. I really do, and to how the pitching in the postseason kind of either is there or is not there. Because right now, I got major concerns. Now, when it comes to the starters, Zach Wheeler is going to give you what Zach Wheeler can give you. Aaron Nola is a crapshoot, man. He's a friggin' crapshoot right now. Taijuan Walker, is he relied upon in the postseason? Where are we going to stand on him? And then you got Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez, and Michael Lorenzen. Out of those three, who are the two you're putting in your rotation? And then you got the bullpen. Greg Soto is leaking oil. Craig Kimbrell is old. Sir Anthony, I don't know where Sir Anthony's at. I really wish the old Sir Anthony would come back soon. Jose Alvarado, he's So there's some major issues here and concerns about this Phillies bullpen as we move down the stretch run into the postseason. I firmly believe the Phillies will obviously make the playoffs. But what kind of like pitching rotation or pitching are we going to have? And then, of course, we can get into the offensive inconsistencies, which I'm not going to spend much time. And I'm not going to spend really any time tonight. As I mentioned, the Titans final is following me up here right after me and right after the Phillies game. It is 7-4, by the way, Phillies in the top of the seventh inning. So, a little over maybe an hour or so, the boys are with the Titans final, which I am proudly part of. Not me tonight, though. I think it's Al tonight. Why? I made the schedule, and I'm like, is it Al tonight? I'm like asking a question. I'm the one who made the damn schedule. But make sure you're checking out the Fighters Final. Make sure you're checking out everything we have over here at the Edge of Philly Sports. And perfect segue into this week's lineup. Tonight, of course, you're talking Philly Sports with me, Matty B, in the leadoff spot. And unlike Kyle Schwarber, I bet a lot higher than 200. Attacking third is going to be coming up here in about 15 minutes at 9, and then the Fighters Final later on. And then the rest of the stuff we got coming up this week. And don't forget, pay special attention to that Thursday night lineup. It is Eagles, all the Eagles all the time. Pregame, halftime, and postgame as we get ready for some Eagles-Vikings Thursday night football. And if you are getting ready to, and if you want to travel with your team and you're looking at a way to travel with your team, then look no further than Philly Sports Trips and travel like the pros. The next trip, really, I believe this is sold out. I'm not really sure, but if it's not, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it is. But head over to the website and check for yourself. But they're heading down to Tampa here for this week 3 game against the Buccaneers on the Monday night game. Hollis Thomas, Vince Papali, and David Akers will be on the trip. So make sure you're going down there and checking them out. And again, if you want to travel like the pros, look no further than phillysportstrips.com or Philly Sports Trips at phillysportstrips.com. And they will, they do it the best. And if you're looking for a place, if you can't get out of town or if you can't, for some reason, watch the game in your house, then head on over to Dolan's at 24 East Sellers Ave in Ridley Park for Quizzo music, great times, memorabilia giveaways, and you never know who the frig is going to walk through the front door at Dolan's. Tell PJ and the crew that Matty B, the Edge of Philly Sports, and Talking Philly Sports with Matty B sent you. Take great care of you. And if you're looking to get to some home games, then look no further than Sherry's Ticket Town at www.sherrystickets.com for sports, concert, and theater tickets. No hidden fees and great prices. Save the additional 10% when you enter the promo code EOP10. And what you're waiting for. And then if the world or if law or if reality has bitten you in the face, then Dave Cherry is the man to call. 610-565-0300 for workman's comp, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, and criminal law. Greg Soto just gave up a home run. It's now 7-5. Jeez Louise, this damn bullpen. Give Dave Cherry a call, and he'll do the best he can for you. And that's going to, 7-5. I think it's Acuna just hit a home run. Did it? Mm-mm-mm. I'm concerned about the bullpen, folks. I really am. We have not done enough. We have not done enough with the bullpen. All right. As you heard Kyle Quinn say that Aaron Rodgers was carted off the field just moments ago out there at MetLife Stadium against the Bills. That is true. He was. But before we get into talking about that, I want to get into my week 2 stuff with you because we are at the end of week 1. And because I am in that unique spot of leadoff, I have the opportunity to kind of break down and give you my week 2 predictions before week 1 is even completed. But right now, I'm going to give you where I stand in week 1. I'm 8-7 right now, and with the game tonight yet to be determined, I got Buffalo winning, but I'm 8-7. So at the very least bit, I'm going to go 500. But it's horrible. That is not the way you want to start off the NFL season. And I'm going 8-7. So right now, again, I got Buffalo tonight to win this game. Hopefully they win. They give me a 9-7 week 1 heading into week 2, but not good. Not good, man. I was off the mark on so many games this week. And not to mention in fantasy football, I got wrapped up this week, man. God damn, I got blown out. Just a bad week. A very impossible to predict kind of type of week for me. So, but listen, I'm going to go into week 2 right now. Let's get into the Sunday games. Of course, I'll save that Thursday game. And I already told you who I'm taking. I'm going to go with the Eagles against. Yeah, what am I waiting for? I already told you this. So I'm going with the Eagles to beat the Vikings on Sunday. I got Green Bay over Atlanta. I got the Buffalo Bills over Vegas. I got Baltimore. Going into Cincinnati and getting punished for Cincinnati's bad game in week 1 against Cleveland. I think Cincinnati destroys Baltimore. I got Detroit in their home opener riding that wave of success, and they're going to beat Seattle. They're going to start the season off 2-0. LA, the Chargers will beat Tennessee as they're on the road for a second straight week. Chicago is now in Tampa. I think Chicago wins. I don't think Tampa is going to respond 2 weeks in a row. Give me Chicago. KC at Jacksonville. I think, when you got Andy Reid and Doug Peterson, it's always special. But I think Andy Reid's going to take it out on Doug Peterson too. So give me KC. Indy at Houston. Give me Indy. San Francisco at the Rams. San Francisco put a hurting on the Steelers last week. I think they do the same to the Rams on Sunday. So give me the Rams. The Giants will bounce back against the lowly Cardinals. The Jets will beat the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, I don't care even without Aaron Rodgers. The Jets will beat the Dallas Cowboys. Washington does not keep their good vibes rolling as they will lose in Denver. Miami goes into New England and gives them their second loss of the season as New England opens the season with 2 straight home games, and that is your Sunday night game. And then we have 2 Monday night games this week. The first one, give me the Saints going to Carolina and beating the Panthers, and then Cleveland will continue their good vibes, and they will travel to Pittsburgh, and they will continue to pound down the Pittsburgh Steelers and Kenny Pickett as give me the Browns on the second Monday night game. So there are my week 2 predictions. There's my 2 cents on the Eagles. Listen, it was a bad game. It was a bad game that the Eagles won because they were just overall a better team. They had more weapons than the Patriots had. The Eagles should not have won that football game. And if anybody out there thinks that they should have, then maybe you're not the Eagle fan. But the Eagles did not deserve to win that game. The Patriots gave it to them because the Patriots just are not as good as the Eagles. That is not a recipe that the Eagles need to follow as the season progresses. They're not going to have the opportunity to take advantage of teams like that every week. This should be a better test for them against the Minnesota Vikings. Justin Jefferson, a big part of last season when the Vikings came here and got kind of manhandled by the Eagles was the Eagles defensively shut down Justin Jefferson. What's going on with a very weak secondary to begin with? And now we got injuries. James Bradbury is banged up. You heard Kyle mention Reed Blankenship is a little banged up. Fletcher Cox is banged up. Nakobe Dean in a walking boot is banged up. So what is going on? We got a thin, unproven defense and it's now dealing with injuries. So it's a long season, and I got the Eagles beating the Vikings on Thursday. But obviously coming out of this game against the Patriots, not feeling all that optimistic, not feeling all that good. But a win is a win is a win, and I'll take it any way I can get it, folks. Listen, that's going to do it for me here on the program. Make sure you're catching me next Monday as we will break down the Eagle Viking game and look ahead to the Eagle Buccaneer game next week with Kyle Quinn on the Birds Breakdown with Kyle Quinn. Until we talk again, what do they say? That is the news, and I'm out of here.